Johnny, or Mr. Contreras. Let's have a little bit of respect here. He just got married, folks. All right.
That's fine.
How's it going?
It's going real good. It's always good to see you, Jason.
You too. It's been a little while since I've been down here. I think this is the first time I've been in this room since I graduated.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been that long. I maybe came back here for like a U of A recruitment and stuff like that.
I did see you wandering the halls.
Once.
Recruiting
young-minded people to go to college.
That's right.
I had my fraternity letters on. I thought I was all cool. I was like, hey, check this out. Remember that stupid movie Drumline or whatever it was? You guys could do this. I think we turned away a bunch of people on that trip, honestly.
Wow.
No, but it was good.
Good.
But yeah, we're back here at Pueblo talking to Johnny Contreras and the PlayMariachi podcast, and I've just been kind of on a roll talking to people about the gig life, the culture, being removed from Tucson for almost 2 years now. I've really seen, it's kind of one of those things where you don't really know what you have until you don't have it.
Big time.
And you don't really realize where you come from until you go somewhere else, right?
Very true.
I mean, this past weekend I was in Los Angeles, and I was interviewing people, and they have life-changing stories going all the way back to Tucson. And I'm like, damn, I've always said I'm spoiled. I didn't know how spoiled I was, guys. Like, seriously.
No, you think that, this happens everywhere all the time.
It's just normal. Mariachi's always there.
Yeah.
The conference is always there.
Yep.
Cobra's always there.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
Right. Vargas Campero's I think that's one of my stories that I tell no matter where I go. It's the fact that growing up here, luckily, my father was the one that kind of, gave me the inkling to want to play guitar. He played guitar, and then he saw that I just really liked it. So then he told me, then as a little squirt, he kind of got me involved with a guitar class that was in at my elementary school. But that was just kind of more of a rondalla, where it was just a bunch of kids playing guitar, and then maybe one or two kids playing the guitarrón, and everybody singing. Interesting story on that one, though. Side note is my dad always was like, hey, trying to get me to play guitar and trying to get me really into it. And then one day, I come home and I'm like, Dad, I need you to buy me a guitar. And his eyes lit up. He was like, wow. He's like, yeah.
I've been waiting for this.
I've been waiting for this. Yeah. And he's like, and I told him, I want to join the guitar class at school under Mr. Vega. There was a guy named Hector Vega at my elementary school. And so he was like, yeah. And then he's like, well, what made you want to do this? And I just said, as a kid, I was just kind of I just want to do it, right?
Yeah.
And then little by little, he noticed that little girl who lived down the street, her name was Susie.
Yeah, so
little Susie was in the guitar class, and all of a sudden, I was so that was what.
That's what'll do it, man. It's a lot easier to pull a guitar out and get a girl than it is to say maybe play piano or maybe violin or trumpet. I'm not dissing you guys, okay? If you're listening out there, I know everyone's always like, oh, you're always talking shit about trumpet players. I'm like, nah, I'm not. I'm just saying it's easier, okay? We chose a easier access path to do that, because we used to do that here.
Yeah.
We used to hang out in the mariachi room.
Grab the guitars and play stuff.
I used to really suck back then, and I still kind of do. I've only gotten a little marginally better since back in the day. People who went to high school with me will tell everybody, like, yeah, Sterling used to suck. He should have just stuck to DJing and radio and stuff like that. It was brutal. That's another thing about it. It's we all come from very similar upbringing. Yeah. Like some of the viewers on YouTube, and they ask, in different parts of the country, and then in Mexico, they start old. And they get into the culture and they start playing guitar when they're in their late teens or in their early 20s, and they never really got a feel for it.
Right.
And it's like guys like us, I mean, we started in the home, right?
Yeah.
The music was there.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like, oh, that's mariachi music and here's everything else, right? It's like, no, this is music.
Right. I mean, for me, it was every Sunday morning hearing the needle drop on the record. That's what I'd wake up to. Saturday and Sunday mornings, my dad would. It's so cool, and I think that's why I still kind of have a little. My heart just swells anytime I hear a record, an LP play.
Oh yeah, you got.
Yeah, you hear stuff. Right. The warmth, and I mean, we had this big old console, freaking monstrosity that was probably the size of this table, and had 2 speakers in it, and you turn it up past 7 and it starts fuzzing out,
Starts popping.
Yeah, it's but that sound just to me, I'll still go back to my mom's and put that sucker on and be like, oh man,
just to touch it, just to like touch home base. Like, okay, let me feel some of the power. Mm-hmm. That's what got me here. Okay, I'm gonna go back out there and continue doing what I was doing.
Right, listening to old records, man, and here, you know, and I was having that conversation with the kid too. I was just telling him how easy now, like everything is at the touch of your fingers. Like as a kid, you know, it's funny because if you remember David Gill, so David Gill comes and helps me out here, and he was saying the same. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, we used to sit there, put an LP on, try to listen to whatever, you know, what was going on, Vargas, you know, and be like, oh man, what are the strum patterns there? And, you know, like we didn't have YouTube. We couldn't just go look it up and be like, oh, you know, or find the music.
Yeah,
didn't
exist,
you know, or we'd have to wait. And that's one thing of us being spoiled is having the Tucson International Mariachi Conference here. I thought that happened everywhere. As a young kid, I'm just like, oh, well, this is, you know, I can't wait for the conference because Vargas is coming and all these guys, you know. And then you just take it for granted and you're like, oh, it happens everywhere. But then you go out as you get older and you're like, oh, wait, you guys don't have a conference? Oh, wait, you guys? Yeah.
It's a desert out here. It's
barren. It's, big time. Even in the big cities. When I went and played in Chicago, like a lot of the guys that I played with were amazed. They're like, you studied with Pato? And I'm like, well, yeah, on a yearly basis. He would come every year.
For a whole week.
Right.
And if he liked you, he would just, okay, well, while everyone's going to lunch, well, what were we doing?
Yeah,
we're
sitting
back
there
in the class, and he's showing us all the goodies, like all the little gems that everyone's like, okay, this is a nice thing, but I'm gonna go eat lunch and
I'm gonna go play, you know, whatever, grab ass and
pretty much,
yeah. And so no, we were, it was one of those things where you had these heavy hitters, you know, and even one time it was hilarious. So the group that I was with in Chicago, we played a gig and Vargas came. So we kind of opened for Vargas, I guess you could say, because there was like three groups, and then Vargas came on. And so then when the guys came, you know, they all came up and gave me big old hugs and said hi to me.
Like, hey, Johnny.
Yeah, and the guys were like,
holy shit.
Like, wait a minute, you know these guys? And I'm like, well, I've known them since I was little, yes. Like, they've seen me grow, you know, on a yearly basis. And sometimes, you know, maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. When as I got older, I would make my way to go see him in Phoenix or El Paso or, you know, California, you know. So those were the experiences that I think some Tucsonans don't understand.
No, it is really easy. This is one thing that I talked about this weekend is stuff that happens out of privilege versus things that happen out of necessity. And then just being in the right place in the right time, the right parents that see, okay, our kid has an inkling for music here.
Yep.
All right, let's get to work, right?
Catching lightning in a bottle, dude. It just happens, man.
It happens so often in Tucson. You know, a lot of guys I've heard say, what is up with you Tucson guys? Like, is it like in the water? And I'm like, I think it must be. It must be the copper mines or something that's in the water gets us all into that mode. So it was in the family. It was in the house. You grow up with all these awesome experiences, like many of people that have like an influence like Cobre or the Camperos or stuff like that. And then you go into playing mariachi music. You were in Changos back in the day. Yeah.
So the way I started first was through Richard Carranza. Actually, his father had they formed a group called Mariachi Nuevo de Tucson, which was a youth group. So I started going there. Jaime Valencia was like one of my first teachers there. And so I kind of got started there, and it's kind of crazy because if you look back at that group, so that group had Miguel Molina that plays with Cobre, Richard Carranza, who is now the chancellor for New York Public Schools, right? The biggest freaking job, public education job in the nation. You have his brother Ruben Carranza, who at one time was the CEO of Wella brands, and so now he actually owns his own brand. I think it's called R & Co. And he's the CEO for that company. You had Julie Maldonado, who's a successful lawyer. You had Monica Trevino, who went on to play with Camperos for many years and still is just a monster player. You had Ruben Loya, who as well, you know, went on to play with Cobre for a little while.
It's my teacher.
Yeah. You know,
I can't escape spending, 4, 5, 6 years. When I pick up a vihuela, I still play like him.
Yeah, that's. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes people look at me, they're just like, that's kind of crazy how you do how you're playing and your technique, and that's pretty good, man. And I'm just like, well, that's not mine, man. That's my teacher's, and it was Ruben Loya who taught me how to do that in Changos. And I'm like, I can't escape it.
And Ruben carries much clout, man, in the world of armonia. And I mean, you know, yeah, and I'll get to that story too. There's more of that on that one, but you know, you had Ruben Loya, you had let's see, I'm trying to bring up. I mean, there's so many. You know, Kathy Marin, who as well moved up with Monica at the time to L.A., and Kathy Marin is still a very well-respected mariachi in the L.A. area. She played with many groups. She played with Reinas. She was part of the first inclination of when when Jose made Mariachi Reinas de Los Angeles, and she's played with a bunch of different groups up there. I see her all the time on TV. You know, she'll be a string player on like award shows and stuff like that. You'll see her in the back playing.
There's the chops.
Yeah.
The classical chops.
The classical chops, man. She's just a player, man. So, you know, I'm probably leaving a couple other people out of there, but those are, I mean, just
kind of hard to fill when you got like you got a Titanic of just experience and people in just a couple of years.
Right.
And
right.
They all go off and they achieve success in music and in life and business.
Right.
It's all starting from just, like you said, your dad dropping a needle, your nana playing piano, your mom or your dad taking you to gigs, and just that little sound, like, okay, it all goes back to that root.
And even though, you know, it's funny, on that same big console, right? Because as a kid, you know, yeah, the parents would play the Mexican music, and of course I was the rock and roll kid, and you know, I was like into Kiss, you know, when I was a kid in the like 70s, late 70s, early 80s. You know, Kiss was like, man, you know, I
you
wanted
can do
to
that.
Yeah, I wanted to
say those things. And I wanted
to play and be like Kiss and wear makeup. You know, all the crazy outfits. And
again, you're trying to get chicks, so
of course, yeah.
That's why I switched to guitar when I was a kid. I used to start as a violin player and then trumpet, and I was like, this ain't fun anymore. Like, that guitar sure strikes them conversations out pretty quickly.
Right. For some reason.
That's how I got my wife.
There you go. Me too.
It works.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so that same console that played, you know, Trio Los Panchos and played, you know, Mariachi Vargas albums and Lola Beltran albums and Miguel Aceves Mejia. My dad was a huge fan of Miguel Aceves Mejia. So, you know, Trio Los Tres Haces, all these different, you know, amazing LPs would play, you know, that same player. I'd put on Kiss, you know, Rock and Roll Over or Kiss Destroyer, you know, I'd playing all these rock albums, and there I was with my little crappy electric guitar trying to figure it out, you know. But it's hilarious because, you know, it's the same thing, and now I look back and I'm like, okay, so yeah, there's the rock element, but I kind of came around, you know, that full circle, and now I'm teaching mariachi, you know, now even if you would have told me, because this is my 17th year here, if you would have told me 19 years ago, you know what, you're going to probably be a teacher, and I'd be like,
no.
Yeah, right, get out of my face.
I'm a musician, man. I'm not a teacher, right?
Right. Or there's some other things I have, you know, and I'm looking at, you know, I have a degree in computer science. I mean, how was I going to, you know,
right.
I just never, you know.
fathom that this would be your spot.
Right.
You would kind of build more or less, you know, a legacy for yourself here, teaching people, right? Especially at Pueblo High School. I mean, you know, I tell people I go to Pueblo even before I moved away. Like when I got my driver's license, right? There's a big ass line at the DMV right there on Ajo, and they kind of like, hey, and this guy's like, hey, do you have your school ID, whatever the other thing? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, he pulls it up. He's like, oh, you go to Pueblo, huh? All right. And he moved me right up to the front of the line, so I didn't have to wait in line. He's like, you're good. Go ahead, just go. You're fine. I was like, shit, man. Okay, some things are just some things, man. What can you do?
Dude, here at Pueblo, I cannot tell you how amazed I am. The alumni that we have that have come out of this school, my mom being one of them, because, you know, she was one of the first graduating classes. But like Pueblo Warriors, they freaking stick together, and they come, you know, you're 100% right, man. There's many times that I'll be somewhere and somebody will recognize me. A lot of them, just the other day, my wife was telling me, She's like, we can't go anywhere without you like knowing somebody.
Shit happens to me all the time.
I know, man. But part of it is because of Pueblo.
Yeah, that's where we went.
Yeah, and it's part of it is the fact that we were at Home Depot. We were working on the house, so we're at Home Depot, and all of a sudden this kid walks around the corner and she goes, "Mr. Contreras." I'm like, hey. I'm like, she was in my mariachi class. Now she works at Home Depot. So it's hilarious, and there's been many times even like at the local tortilleria, off of 4th Avenue. I walked in there and to go get tortillas, and one of my students is sitting there at the thing, and he's like, all right. He's like, yeah. He's like, it's on me. I'm like, really? I'm like, take them. I feel like, take 5 more dozen then.
Yeah, can you put some more on there? Yeah. I'm really kind of hungry, man.
But yeah, so I'm like, what? I'm like, so even washing my car the other day, I pulled into a car wash, and they're like, hey, man, friends and family, and I'm like, oh. All right, get a free car wash.
It happens, and it's like so humbling.
Right.
It never goes to your head when you run into people like, oh my god, another person that I know. I'm like, holy shit. Like sometimes you can even feel a little bad. It's like, fuck, I don't remember who that is sometimes. Oh, man. And I'm like, hey, I know that we know each other, man.
I know the face. The name is fuzzy.
It's escaping me a little bit. And then some people are cool about it. Like, well, what do you expect of yourself, man? You meet hundreds of people. You play mariachi, you do all these things. It's like, it's cool, dude. I mean, it's like, your name is escaping me right now. I know you, right?
And I'm sure you get this too, man. This is the funny thing that makes me laugh is I'll be somewhere like the mall or something, and somebody will be like, hey, they're like, you're mariachi, and I'm like, yeah. And they'll be like, you remember you played at our wedding like 18 years ago, yeah. And I'm like. You know how many weddings in 18 years, or
You know how many wedding albums I'm in?
Yeah.
Many family photo albums.
The same thing with you played at my quinceañera, and they're like 30 years old, and they're like, yeah, that was a while back, but hey,
I'm glad you had a good experience. We didn't suck, did we? We weren't all peaceful, were we? We were good. All right, we were good. All right, that was good. So you go from that, and so that's another thing I want to talk to you about is going from your beginning, being a student. Being around in the time that you were around with all these amazing people that are now, very successful individuals, and now becoming an educator, and not only an educator, but a director and a mentor. You were one of my early mentors. You always were straight with us, and you knew my mom, you knew my family. Yeah. And that's another thing. Everybody knows my mother, so I can't get away with shit. Yeah. She'll probably get mad that I said shit, but I mean it, and she knows I mean it.
Right.
And
I'm of age now to say shit.
And I'm of age, It's okay. It's okay. I'll get my ass kicked later on. She could do it. She's this tall, and I mouthed off to her once when I was like 14, and she grew like 10 feet. She had a W on her chest for whooping, and she gave me one. Man, it was bad. Oh, she's like the sweetest little angel, but then you piss her off, man, and she turns into the devil. I'm just like, oh my god. Yeah, but like, so you're going from that now. How do you see yourself going through that transition and becoming an educator and a director and guiding the next generation into the future? Because we do have privilege. We do have instantaneous access. I mean, I've always done this thing when I go to LA, and I used to always have 2 CDs with me. One was Camperos, the original one with Guadalajara, so I can play them. As soon as I hit that Cali border, I still get the bumps.
Right.
I'm like, this is like going to Vegas and putting 10 on black, just in case, so we have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Right? This is just as good juju for the trip, right? Yeah. I don't want to get carjacked. I don't want to get pulled over. I want to have a good weekend. And then when I come back, as soon as I hit that AZ border, first thing I'm putting on is Mariachi Cobre. And I did it this weekend, but I wasn't carrying CDs.
Right.
I had YouTube. Easy. Bluetooth. I don't even have to connect the damn thing anymore.
Exactly.
And so it's so easy and so abundant, and so I think when you have that ease of access, you have a lack of ganas to go after it, right? You don't have to buy CDs. You don't have to like work at it, right? It's just there.
The cool thing now, I think, that I see with kids is they work at finding not so common like stuff. That's the cool thing, and I think maybe that's what opens my eyes too, and and maybe it's just something that I do. I was discussing this with one of my ex-students that graduated a couple of years ago, and he told me, he goes, now I see. He goes, I see it. Why, when we were with Aztlan and we're playing with you, you didn't want to do like all the common songs. Of course, you can't get away. We're a gigging group, so of course we got to do Volver, we got to do Mariachi Loco, we got to do El Rey. I mean, those are badass songs in their own right. But as a mariachi musician, if I had like a nickel for every time I played Volver,
oh my god,
right, we'd be like rich, man. We'd be,
should claim royalties every gig you have to play that thing.
Right,
it'd be all right.
Or Mariachi Loco, or Amor Eterno. Those beautiful songs, but just I'm talking about the number of times we play them, right? So he mentioned to me, he's like, it's crazy. He goes, because I never used to understand. Like, I would always tell you, why can't we do this one? Why can't we do this one? And I'd be like, you know what?
You'll see.
You'll see, yeah. We're going to do something else, a little different, something that you're probably never ever going to probably even play again.
Yeah.
Because people aren't going to ask for it. But you're going to have fun doing it. You're going to present it. You're going to be on a stage. People are going to like it, And so that's kind of the thing. And he just told me that. He's like, now I see. He was, because now that he's gigging with another group,
it's a whole different thing.
It's all he does is play.
You're in the dirt, Vato.
You're
in the backyard,
yeah.
the dirt. You're not on stage with Camperos anymore, and you're not on stage with a nice new traje and a Roberto Morales.
Exactly.
And, man, you're in the backyard getting Rafa at, man. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, breathing dust and smoke and kids kicking balls around you, and
every song that you never thought you would listen or learn or hear is getting thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a big shock for me because I went right from Changos, right from Pueblo to the U of A, but I went right into gigging, and I started playing, and I was like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy money in a way,
yeah.
Right? Because you're not busting your back, you're not on a roof, hot, in 110 degrees, you're not, landscaping.
Yeah, you're using your hands for playing an instrument,
right? And you're usually, at the most, you might be a little uncomfortable because you're dressed in a good traje de charro, and it might be a little hot,
right?
But you're not digging a ditch, and on top of that, they're usually supplying you with some beverages, ice cold beverages.
Maybe a beer or two.
They're introducing you to their daughter, like, hey, check it out.
It's a good life. Oh, he plays mariachi, mija. You just broke up with that guy. He's going to the U of A. It's like, oh, it's the best life.
Yeah,
that's the best life.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the thing. That's that's another thing that playing mariachi, gigging mariachi, got me through college, man.
Yeah.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s, my buddies, man, they were working at like Wendy's for like
bussin'
$5 an hour.
Yeah.
And here I was back then probably getting like $25-$30 an hour, so I'd play like 4 or 5 gigs, 6 gigs on the week, on a big weekend. Man, I was rolling. Yeah. But my buddies were like having to work at Jack in the Box and all these places, closing and having to be at class the next day, and like I used to be like, wait a minute,
We're making the same. Actually, I'm making more than you for less hours.
Yeah, for less hours. I'm refreshed. I'm coming to class. I'm doing homework. I have time for homework. I have time to go cruise around with my girlfriend. Yeah. You know what I mean? And this guy's busting his butt.
And you got the feria to do it, too. And that's what's nice. I noticed that when I went to work in the restaurants, like immediately right after high school, and I was doing the college thing, and the waiters and the staff, I think they could sense that the mariachis there were getting paid a full day's wage to be there 2 hours, and they're there for 8 to 10 hours.
Right.
And there was a little animosity there.
Huge animosity, man.
And that's one of the things that I learned early on, and I carry it with me today, trying to be, like a good person. It's like you never snicker at people who serve you food. You never. I see people do it. I live in Phoenix. I go to Scottsdale to I'll drop some money in Scottsdale for some food, right?
Heck yeah.
And on a good weekend, I'm like, I don't give a shit. Order what you want. Let's order 2 of them. Let's get 1 to go. I don't care.
Right.
On a good weekend. And always tip people. Always look them in the eye. Always thank you. And if they're really bomb, they're really good, you give them more. Like I don't need a percentage to know how much to tip somebody. Exactly. I'll give them more. But people don't see that.
No.
You know what I mean?
People act like it's a service, and that it is a service, but at the same time, it's more like an obligatory. Like they're like, well, he's a waiter, he's got to serve me.
Yeah,
it's like no,
not
like,
really.
Like he can choose to not fill your glass or be
fuck with your food too.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that happening.
But then there's the thing about respect. It's like, how much do you respect yourself to give it to another person when you don't have to? Right. Like, how does that affect their world and their day? Where they're like, man, I had a bunch of asshole customers, but there's this one dude and his chick, and they were awesome, and they ordered food. always have that about you, right? And then sometimes, there's karma. It comes back.
People do not understand how important karma is. Call it what you want to call it. There's karma. You can call it, the man upstairs looking out for you.
Yeah.
You can call it good deed for another good deed. I mean, so many people call it other, but what goes around comes around. I 100% believe it. I see it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
It's happened with, I still tell people about the story when we went to that pizza spot years ago. Remember that? That was that downtown spot, and then we were all just eating, and we're like, you know what? This is good. Like, we all had, I think Adrian was with us.
Yeah, he was.
We were like, we're good. We can afford whatever, right?
Yeah,
and it was opening night. And so, we just had the full course. We had we each ate a whole pizza.
Pizzas, yeah. It was Bianco's, bro.
Yeah, it was Bianco's.
It was Bianco's. James Beard award-winning.
The best.
Yeah, the best pizza.
The best that ever came to Tucson.
Yeah.
And we did the full spread. We had the dessert. We had the
couple
appetizers.
Salad.
We went the whole 9. And I remember the bill coming. I'm like, shit, we're each going to spend at least a bill in here.
Yeah. Easily.
And he comped almost damn near the whole thing.
Right.
And I was just like, holy shit, this is awesome. And just because we were with you. And we're just a bunch of musicians. He's like, you guys got musicians in here at opening night? Oh, there's Johnny right there. And that bill came back. I think we must have made that waitress's night because we all just paid her what the tip was.
Right. We said, let's hear, boom, boom, boom.
Here's what I was going to pay. It's all for the waitress now, right?
Yep.
Damn, I still show people the thing because I think Adrian posted the receipt and then the pizza and everything, and I was just like, "Fuck, I love my life."
Yeah, I mean, it comes around, man. Believe me, all you have to be is be a good person, man. Do good things, man. And
don't have a hidden agenda.
Right.
You know what I mean? Be real.
That's monstrous right there, man. Yeah, just be real about stuff. But you're right, man. You're right. It's even with playing mariachi, even with clientele, dude, people come back, people see you, people say, no, you know what, you did a great job,
Referrals.
Right. There's so many times, and I'm not going to throw names around here, but so many times I'll get a call and they'll be like, hey, so we went with this one group and that group didn't show. They sent some other group, and it was like a big old desmadre, and and these kids, they sent a bunch of kids, and they sent this or they sent that, and you're just like, or they said they were going to bring this many, and they only came with like 3, and like so
they still want the full check though, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what about the other 5 people that didn't show up?
Right.
You want me to pay for those people that aren't here?
Yeah. So you see those, like, I hear those stories, man, but it's true. You just gotta, we're as mariachis, we're in the service industry ourselves.
Yes.
You're right. I mean, there's times, and I tell my students that, you have to understand you're out there, you're doing a service. You go out there, you play for somebody, a birthday, a wedding, or whatever. You have to make those people feel that day and that time right there is the most special time in their lives at that moment. And that's what you guys are there for. You're celebrating. You're being, you need to be in the moment with them. And don't get me wrong, there are times we've been hired. There's one time we got hired to play up at the Westward Look Resort, right? And there was these older people, and they were having this gathering. I can't even tell you what exactly it was. I think it was like an anniversary or something. But so they had us out on the patio area, and we're playing. And there's like maybe 40, 50 people there, in this patio. Yeah, casual.
Easy gig.
Right? And they come and they say, hey, can you guys play on the other side right there? Because you're a little bit loud. We can't really hear. So I'm like, on the other side. So literally, they wanted us to go around and play on the other side of a wall where we couldn't even really see them.
Right.
I'm like, you need a DJ then.
Yeah, I was like, you might as well just have the radio playing.
Right. You guys don't want a mariachi. You want a DJ.
Yeah, you're not having a live performance. You just want a radio playing right now.
Right.
Yeah, and that sucks when that happens.
Right. And even the kids were kind of like, are they serious? They want us to play? So I'm like, just play a little lower. Don't blast, especially trumpets. Play off to that way instead of playing in their direction.
This is a nice lesson in dynamics.
Exactly.
It's a nice little lesson, and not everything has to play at full forte, right?
Exactly. And also a lesson in social issue too. To be like, like, I know they're hiring us, but like they're kind of treating us a little crappy. They want us to play on the other side of a wall. So luckily we were
Martha Stewarding us right now a little bit.
Right.
It doesn't feel good.
No.
It feels really shitty.
Yeah. So luckily we were towards the end of our set and we finished it out. They gave us the money. Okay, we're on, right?
Yeah.
And so now, fast forward, to another gig. We just played for a backyard party just last weekend. For I'm not sure how old the lady was. She was probably in her 60s, maybe. And we go back there and play, and they bring us right there. They give waters to all the kids. It was a little cold, and they had a fire pit. They're like, yeah, have the kids, around the fire pit so they don't get so cold. It was really neat, really inviting. They had plates served for us afterwards.
Best
so
gigs.
yeah, birria, rice and beans, tortillas. And we're like, man. So, you get that, and then on top of that, maybe not that gig, but other gigs we've had, and they'll say, hey, Bam, here you go, and they tip us an extra 100. They tip us, and so, it's the social, like I said, maybe social norms that some people appreciate it. Other people
they just want to hear something. They just have something there.
Just want to have us like monkeys dancing in a cave.
And there is a little bit of that. Okay, well, how far does the show business go before it's a little degrading? And it's like, well, that's something for you to decide when you're older, right? You're a kid right now. This is your learning experience, right? You're not getting, you're not child labor right now. No. This is an experience for you to see. Hey, there's different types of people out there, right? And it is a little awkward because as you get to be older, and you're not a kid, you're not so cute, you don't have a director telling you how to do where to stand. It's like when you come across a family that hired you for their family gig in a backyard, that's a little awkward. It's a little bit like trying to score a date with a chick that you hardly talk to or know, and that's a skill, right? You can't just go up and be like, hey, want to come out with me now? It's like no, or it's like, okay, hey guys, how's it going? We're here to entertain you guys and have that showmanship attitude, and people respond to that, and they're like, oh, okay, I hired a show group here. Okay, well, that's just cool. Let's do this, right? Yeah. But if you don't get that experience as a young person, you're always going to be that awkward person at the gig, hitting on a chick. If you're a chick, hitting on a dude, it's always going to be weird and awkward. Yeah. And so those life experiences are things that you carry with you, not just in music and mariachi, but in life. Right. Like being here, we're at Pueblo. And this is another thing I want to talk to you about is the arts and education, right? So over the years, I even hear educated people tell me these things sometimes. It's like, well, what practical use is liberal arts? What practical use is a music program when we can't get students to pass basic algebra? And I'm like, I don't know if that's an argument. I kind of feel like that's just a statement. And maybe even just a stupid question. But here's a good example on the podcast. So, I work in the aerospace industry. I work in commercial aerospace. It has nothing to do with anything of music, whatever. No. Nothing, right? Last year, my boss comes up to me and says, hey, we're going to have this week where you have all of the international sites coming over. And it's like, hey, do you know how to do video editing? Because we want to do a thing. We want to do this thing where it's like we have like the Bruno Mars song and we want to have people lip singing to it and dancing. Do you know how to do any of that stuff? And I'm just like, yeah, I do. I didn't go into too much detail how, and I was like, yeah, I actually do. And so we had all these like lyrics. We re-recorded lyrics to go with like the song and everything. Theme, with the theme of our department and what we do. It's like we do earned value and program management and cost analysis and schedule. So we had all these little fun little like, what if your schedule's behind? And then I'll go into Bruno Mars, right? Right. Real quirky, real cheesy. Well, I just finished the project. It was presented on Monday. I got an MVP Director's Recognition Award for it. I got a bonus. I just got a raise. And I just got a promotion, right? And it's not just because of the stupid video. I mean, I have the experience, right? Sure. But that thing was shared not only with my boss's director, but her director and boss and VP. And they're like, who put this together? It's like, well, it was a collaborative effort. But this guy, that we hired in a couple, 18 months ago, Sterling Davenport, he has a background, and he put this all together and choreographed. And so, in a Southside school that had an arts magnet program for students like me who can't sit still, can't focus, right? They had a magnet liberal arts program that 20 years later is now getting me in a positive light with a director. How many people get that opportunity and then are able to seize it, right? Right. And let's put a little bit on that too, because I get that
all the time, those people that put down Pueblo too, I mean, Pueblo, oh, you're teaching at Pueblo, oh my God, yeah, man, that must be rough. I love it.
Yeah, it's great here.
Yeah, I love it, and like you said, there's a lot of good things going on here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good things. All right, now, who would have thunk it that you would have had this experience to be able to, who would have thought that like you said, now how long has it been since you were here at Pueblo now? 12 years probably?
I'm 32.
Oh, man.
I know. At least I don't look 32.
No.
I got that going for me.
Yeah.
I got that Highness gene that just keeps us preserved.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the Davenport gene. I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's the Figueroa one. There's something in
there's something in there.
there.
Yeah.
It's keeping it Scotch. That's what's doing it.
Pickling yourself.
Yeah. It keeps the body young.
Yeah.
But I graduated when I was 18 and I'm 32. So about 14 years.
14 years, man.
Shit.
Yeah.
Who would have known?
Right.
And I tell people, I was like, I know how to do a lot of different things and this what got me into more studying science and engineering now, and it's easier for me, right, to do hardware type stuff. And it's like, it wasn't just like you go into the studio. No. The education program was you need to learn how to write, how to do sweepers, how to do scripting, how to do choreograph all your shots. You need to take tests. Like your freshman and sophomore years are studying manuals about specs and sound things. I remember Mr. Potter down the hall down here, and he wouldn't let you go in the studio if you didn't pass tests on the hardware specs.
Yeah.
So you had to take these tests and be able to put in all the right answers for the specs. So you would study the spec diagrams, you would study the software commands, and if you didn't pass those tests, you weren't going in the studio.
Yeah, you're not going to put your hands on these expensive equipment.
Exactly.
Man. Yeah.
And you're not going to speak on the radio if you don't know how to interview somebody, if you don't have a dialogue and capability, and this is all stuff that you have to learn. And as soon as I got to college, I was a fish out of water, right? I'm not for nothing, but I was a kid from the South Side, so going from that to the U of A, right? And it was such a culture shock. Right. But I had all this kind of programmed into me coming to here and learning math, learning chemistry, learning language, learning multimedia, so I can engage with people. And mentors see that. They're like, oh, okay. Well, you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Too much. There we go. Hold on. There we go. Going in, I get worked up over all this stuff.
That's right.
And that experience is invaluable.
Yep.
And if you don't learn how to do that, like, how do you think I passed like my college English classes? Because they were taught by a Korean lady. I didn't understand a word she said.
Oh, yeah.
So if I didn't already know how to do it, I would have been lost.
Right.
And so as you encounter people with that, and now going into the connection with the Tucson conference, you have the school here, you have all of this, and now you're kind of leading the charge with the Tucson Mariachi conference, right? I mean, I don't think I really know how that functions anymore. It's been a long time since I even participated.
Come back, man. Come down, man. Come, dude.
I'm always down. I usually only come for the parties,
right,
and the shows.
Well,
I should get more. I should get
a little more involved.
I should get more involved. Yeah, I'm definitely down to do that, and especially since I've been doing the channel and just doing guitar videos and golpe videos, and it's stuff that doesn't exist out there.
No,
so I just started doing it.
Sure.
But coming back into the tie-in, you have the students learning in the school, you have them going to those conference programs. How is that going these days? Like, how is that impacting, and how is that progressing? I see the lineup you guys have this year. It looks really nice.
Thank you, man. So I'm the chair. This is my 8th year on the board for the Tucson International Mariachi Conference, and I'm the chair for the workshops. So I basically, my education is my portion. Of course, I do have an influence on who they bring, because of course, I think, like, who would the kids want to learn from? What songs are the kids, that's another cool thing, is that being a teacher, like, we have that direct line. We have that direct line to the students. I see the kids here every day, and I see, like, on YouTube, they're, like, looking up, oh, hey, man, have you heard such and such group? And, man, they got this cool song out. Or, did you see this performance? And so I'm, like, my ears are open, and I'm like, oh, that's a buzz. It's kind of funny. So probably about now, gosh, I want to say 7 years ago, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, when we first went out to the casino.
Oh, yeah. The changeover.
The big changeover. there was a buzz. There was a buzz about this group called Mariachi Nuevo Tecalitlan, who is not a new group.
Yeah, they're 50, 60 years old.
Yeah, they're just celebrated 50 years not too long ago. So they've been around the corner. So the funny thing is that now, they worked their butts and they were sounding amazing, right? So it was really funny that I present it at the board meeting. So I say, hey, because they're like, who are we thinking of bringing, blah, blah, blah. So I said, look, you know what, guys? And I luckily had my laptop, had everything ready to go. There's a group called Mariachi Nuevo Tecalitlan. We'd like to bring them. And so I feel bad, for bringing this up. But there was an older woman that's on the board, and she raised her hand, and she goes, but are they good? And I was like, oh, my God.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. So I said, you know what, let me click. Let's put this up, and here's a video.
You tell me if you think they're worthy, right?
Right. And to tell you the truth, they were kind of like, oh, because, the technology to them is kind of like, okay, well, there's a little video of them or whatever, right?
Right.
But when they came.
Yeah, and you see them live.
And they played, and then they were like, oh, my God, you were right. I'm like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I am in mariachi. Yeah. I teach it. I have a direct connection with these kids that I see every day. So it's kind of funny in that way that, that's what we, that's the cool thing. This year, we're bringing Mariachi de America de Jesus Rodriguez de Ijar, who they haven't been to Tucson since I want to say 92 is what I can't confirm that exactly, but I think that's the last time that they were in Tucson.
Wow.
It was 1992. They did a concert. It was them, Vargas, Cobreca, Camperos, I believe. So it was like a 4, and they did like a mano thing. And so it's kind of crazy.
Epic. It's going to be an epic show.
And they're bringing Don Jesus, who's now going to be 92 very soon.
Man.
And doesn't play anymore.
Right.
But is still
kicking.
He's a pillar. Mariachi Vargas has only had 5 musical directors in the over 100, going on 120 years that they've been around, right? Don Silvestre Vargas, Ruben Fuentes, who's still around too, and Ruben Fuentes is 92, I want to say. Just celebrated 92 or 93 years, like last week or a week and a half ago. And he's still the general director he's still the one in charge of Vargas, even though he's not the musical director. Right. So he was their second. They
recognize him as, we're not going to do anything that he doesn't think is a good idea.
Exactly.
Because we want to maintain our success, right? It works. It has worked for over 70 years for a reason.
Right. And so he still maintains that control, but he was their second musical director. Their third musical director was Jesus Rodriguez Ijar, right?
Classically trained,
an amazing artist, and they're going to even do a little sit down to talk about his trajectory and the things he's done, which is going to be neat. That'd be neat for you to be there and check that out, man.
I want to be there.
I think that's on Thursday. That we don't have the schedule exactly right, but that should be a little thing that they do on Thursday morning.
Yeah, whatever I'm doing, I'm coming down here.
Please, yeah. And so he was the third musical director. Pepe Martinez, another monster, was the fourth. And now Carlos Martinez.
His nephew.
Who came from Nuevo Tecalitlan. Right. Pretty much he was the key to Nuevo Tecalitlan's success. Yeah. He's what brought them. And it's kind of funny because it's history repeating itself, because Pepe Martinez was the musical director for Nuevo Tecalitlan.
That's right. He had a brother, didn't he?
Him and Fernando.
Yeah.
And Fernando's kids are Fernando Jr., Angel, who also plays so Fernando and Angel both play. Alejandro plays guitar for them. Mm-hmm. Carlos is the youngest, and he played violin and was the musical director for them.
But he's the youngest. He's around. He has his ear to the ground, and he's smart, sees it, studies, spends all his youth preparing himself for this, right?
Right, and now he's Vargas' musical director.
Damn, they're not for nothing, but you gotta start young. And when you start young and you have the opportunity, you have to work. Right, every day you work and
you put in the hours, man.
The wrench time pays off on the racetrack.
There's no magic pill. That's what I tell my kids. There's no magic pill. I can't come in here and be like, all right, everybody take this. Everybody take a swig of this, and now you're going to be amazing.
You're amazing. No, you know those 6 or 7 hours between 6th and 7th period, and when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right there.
Burn it in.
You know those 2 or 3 hours before first period? You get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Right there.
Yep.
Somehow figure it out between playing gigs.
Yep.
Remember back in the day, that was my only thing. Because you remember how I was back in the day. I actually had a late start to playing armonía.
You did, yeah.
I think I started at like 14, 15, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm competing with guys that have been playing armonía since they were, when I first started picking up the violin.
Right.
So I had a 6-year gap to fill.
Right.
So what did I do? I come home. I'm always asking you questions. I'm always asking other people questions. And I'm like, and I didn't have YouTube at the time either. Like that didn't exist.
That crap didn't exist.
Man. I didn't have it. I remember Jose Roscoe one time got pissed at me one time because he's just like, I didn't know anything. So he just tells me, he's like, compra CDs, pinche Jason. Why don't you learn any of this stuff? And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
And so it was what's that saying? School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, right?
Sure.
And so I quickly caught back up, and then all of a sudden, my first Tucson conference experience was playing Vihuela right next to Roberto Martinez, the 40th anniversary, and busting that out, and then hearing the crowd just go, and then everyone just loses their shit. I was like, man, all right, that's the wrap on my life. Doesn't matter what else I do, because this is going to be here forever. So that sounds really awesome with the conference. It sounds like you guys are, and not just going back to the well, right? But like continuing forward with the tradition, right? Looking at what the kids are into, looking at who's out there doing what, because America doesn't need to exist. No. Nuevo doesn't have to exist.
Right.
None of these guys have to be doing what they're doing, but they're doing it.
Right.
And they have the lineage and the teaching back to support what they're doing in the training, right? They're legit as it gets.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's super important. We've had people, even people within the board or people from outside approach us and be like, well, those guys, they charge a lot. But you know what? Hey, there's such and such group here, or we know of such and such group. They can come and they can come teach the group. They can come teach the conference, and they're like for like half of what they charge. But then I think you hit it when you mentioned the history and the notoriety that these groups have. I'm sorry, but like when it comes down to it, how can you substitute Mariachi America? These groups are, as much as you want to try, and obviously it's the name Mariachi de America because it's obviously none of the original guys from back in the 70s when Don Jesus started them are still playing, but Don Jesus still has that same, even though he's not, pretty much directing them anymore.
If someone is not up to standard,
he's the first one to be like, yeah, we need to find somebody else, or yeah. So he's still in charge, whether you believe it or not.
And that's just how music goes, right?
Yeah.
When I went to the U of A and started studying classical theory, and I'm around hundreds of talented kids.
Man,
Dr. Kolosik was my music theory teacher, and I was one of his last classes in music theory before he retired. And being around people like that, man, you don't want to talk about humbling.
Yeah.
You don't talk about people that spent their life devoted to music and studying in Austria and studying, and just. I'm like, man, I'm just some stupid mariachi guy from Tucson. I'm like, man, I'm in here trying to think that I was good. And you go through this, and you guys that just devour scores.
Yeah.
They're in the piano room downstairs just devouring Bach, every catalog. They want it perfect. Why? Because they want that first chair.
Yeah.
Right? Because when they get out of the college and they go through a master's program or a PhD program, if they're not the first chair, or they're not recognized as being able to achieve that first chair, they're not going to eat.
Mm-mm.
They're not going to get the jobs with the symphony.
Nope.
They're not going to get the jobs with recording big studios in Hollywood, right? So there's a competition and a standard for a reason, right? Because you can't screw with studio time.
No.
If you're a symphony violinist, if you're a symphony timpani player, you cannot be missing up beats in a recording with John Williams, who's recording the latest Star Wars song, right? No. It's got to be perfect.
Right. It's
got to be better than perfect, guys. It needs to be perfect yesterday.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And that's the standard that mariachi music has now.
Yeah, it's risen. And I think a lot of that standard has been pushed by the fact that a lot of it goes back to mariachi conferences. You know, Tucson wasn't the first, San Antonio was, and they're still around. But you know, it was, if you look at it, just take a look at the meccas, you know, because San Antonio is still a big mariachi mecca.
Oh, yeah.
They still have good groups, a lot of groups. They have it in the schools. They have it. And then there's Tucson. Those were the first two mariachi conferences. And from there, it just goes like this. It just, you know, goes out.
We have mariachis in New York now.
Yeah.
In Connecticut. All over the place.
Canada. You got mariachis, you know, all over. Yeah. It's really funny. I did you probably remember Jeff Nevin. So Jeff Nevin was a hometown boy. Yeah. Played with the Changuitos Feos. And then went off to Indiana University, got his degree there. Now he's a doctor of music, doctor of composition. He has written scores and orchestrations for Vargas. Vargas plays his stuff. He's good friends with Ruben Fuentes. Whenever he goes to Mexico City, he visits Ruben Fuentes. You know, so here's this kid who's not even of Mexican-American descent.
In the culture. At the highest levels.
At one of the highest levels. And so he put together a kind of a round table. It's like a summit for mariachi instructors down in Chacala, Nayarit. And I luckily have been... luckily he invited me. It's going on 3 years now that we've gone down there and taught. So I'm one of the teachers that helps him teach down there. And there's a mariachi. A kid comes down. Him and his uncle, I believe, they have a group in Alaska.
Wow. So
yeah. So I mean, just so you see, I mean, it's
everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's
Mariachi's worldwide, man.
So as we go, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. And I don't want my camera to die because that'll look really shitty. And especially that I got Johnny Contreras here on the podcast. I want to make sure this looks good. As a teacher and as a director and instructor and musician, with all your experience, you know, do you have any advice for people who are aspiring to be their best? Like, I know everybody's at practice, right? Practice is a big one. But, you know, my whole thing is I look at myself in the mirror. And I kind of try to calm that anxiety down. I'm like, do I really still have what it takes to, you know, make these YouTube videos? Yeah. You know, that's a big thing for me. I'm just like, who am I? I'm not even 100% Mexicano either, right? I'm a half Mexican, half Jap white kid, you know, with Native American blood in me, you know?
Yeah,
it's
we're
weird.
all mutts, man.
We're all mutts around here. Yeah. So as a student tries to strive to be their best, as a musician who's a professional is trying to strive to be their best, or even a director who could be at the top of their level, but they still strive to be the best they can every day. You know, do you have anything to say for people and how to, you know, take criticism, how to keep pushing, right? Yeah, you know, I think you're kind of giving the answer as we speak, because, so number one is like we said, there's no magic pill. You have to put in the work. The work, you know, there's that book, 10,000 hours, you know, that's... Standard in U of A or university levels. You want to be a classical guitarist. You got to put in those 10,000 hours, and then you're a concert guitarist. You can, I mean, and of course, there are people who put in 10,000 hours, but if they're not putting in good 10,000 hours, if they're not, you know, that's one of those misnomers when they say practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Right. So knowing and understanding, you know, how to practice and how to rehearse, you know, I'd say, you know, immersing yourself in what mariachi is. Listen to as much of it as you can. Have an open head, an open ear. There's too many people that say, oh, well, I just like this group and that's the only way I like them, and so I play like them and that's it. That's okay. That's great. But you're just putting yourself in that bubble. Yep. There are so many other groups. You know, we just talked about Mariachi Nuevo Tecalitlan, right? Amazing group. Mariachi Sol de Mexico, amazing group. Los Camperos, amazing. Cobre, amazing. Vargas, the epitome of mariachi. But they all play different. Yeah, they all have different timing. They have different nuances. They, just like jazz players,
You know, you can sit there and say, you know, who's the best, you know, well, you know, I like Charlie Parker. Well, I like Cannonball Adderley. I like, you know, but they all are amazing.
Yes.
But they play different.
Right.
Everybody is different. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no, like, oh, well, they play it right. And Sol de Mexico plays it wrong, or Cobre plays it wrong, or no.
Where's this all coming from? Yeah.
Everybody plays something different, and you can take a little bit of what you like from everybody, and then you kind of make it your own. That is good. If you try to play just like, if I tried to play Vihuela just like Roberto Martinez, like, number one, it's hard as hell, but number two, there's already Roberto Martinez.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be, and I'm not taking anything away. I'm not trying to be Roberto Martinez. I want to be as good as Roberto Martinez, but I still want to be John Contreras. Yes. I still want to have my own. So I really like what he does there. But then when I see, you know, Roberto Hernandez from Nuevo Tecalitlan, he does something different when he plays that song, right. You know, or when I see even Pato, I mean, who's the, you know, the be all end all.
Godfather.
Yeah,
he's the Marlon Brando of Vihuela.
He is the yeah, oh yeah. So, you know, you pick and choose what you like, and you kind of bring it and make it your own. You know, and that's the same thing. Even with directors, you know, musical directors, we just kind of had a little round table with TUSD Fine Arts not too long ago, a couple days ago now, and they were explaining how there were some classical guys. I think, namely, one of the guys that teaches on a high school level. And he was saying that the mariachi at his school, the upper level, the advanced level, they play really good. But when he's gone and seen like the lower level mariachis playing, he notices that the director has like they're playing stuff that's out of their the ability.
Setting the wrong benchmark.
Right. You know, he's like saying, like, I'm just throwing stuff out there, but like, you know, beginning violin students, and they're having to learn to play in fourth position. Like, whoa. Right. Or having to play in, like, you know, F sharp minor. Like weird keys, like, you know.
Whoa. Someone has the wrong idea of what a standard is, right?
Right. And so that's another thing is, if you're a director, even if you have your own group, but understand the ability that you're at, and play to that ability level. Push yourself. That I'm not saying don't strive, don't push try not, you know, you should be pushing yourself to get better, but don't expect a group that just got together and guess what, they want to play, you know, violin huapango or something. You know what? Probably not. Let's learn to play some rancheras solidly. Let's learn to play some good boleros solidly. Let's play sones the way they, you know, nice and good tempos, and, you know.
Let's go get a Miguel Aceves Mejia record before we try to play a big huapango. Yeah. Let's learn what a huapango is first.
Right. Let's learn a slower huapango. Let's learn something that's not so. Or there's ways to adapt. I mean, if you're a director, you should have at least some ability with music theory.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying you're going to be a major arranger. I'm not saying you're a composer. I'm just saying you should have a decent amount of music theory to where you can look at a score and you can say, well, you know, this is my beginning class and the trumpets are playing like above the staff. Mm-hmm. You should be able to say, why don't I take that down an octave?
Right. Pitch it down an octave, rewrite it.
Right. Rewrite it, put it down an octave. Okay, you know what? There's too many 16th notes in this violin part. Right. I'm going to rewrite it. I'll put some longer, you know, let's do quarter notes and eighth notes.
Right, but in the right tempo, right? In the right timing.
Right, so it falls together, but you don't have to be, you know, right. You can
break it up for them.
Break it up a little bit, right? Make it an easier arrangement. You know, but and another thing that kills me is directors that don't understand tessitura. Especially like vocal tessitura. Yeah. I have seen way too many groups where the director has a young lady singing in a guy key, and they're like, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you realize the potential damage that you're going to do to a singer, right? To a singer's potential in general,
and just in general, like come on, like you're a musician.
You don't hear that?
You should understand that young lady's singing way too low.
In the wrong key.
In the wrong key. Oh, but she wanted to sing that song. Okay, guess what? Pop it up a cup, transpose it 2 or 3, 2 or 3 keys up.
You can always tell when a person doesn't have that capability.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, I just stepped on a nerve.
Right.
It's not as simple for them to just transpose it because they can't.
Right.
It's like, ooh,
yeah.
stepping away.
For them, it's the easy way. Yeah. For them, it's the easy way out. Oh well, I just gave it to them and they're playing it. Yeah. Or they'll make something. They'll make the kids do something ridiculous. I've heard that. I've heard like youth groups play, and they've got like, because it's too low, they make the kids sing the octave, and then it's too high, and the kids singing all falsetto, and you're like, that sounds dumb.
Just rewrite it.
Just rewrite it.
Yeah, get a whiteboard. Maybe you don't have to do it all on a score. Just get a whiteboard. At the first, it should be here.
Yeah.
I should be able to go to a whiteboard and go through everything.
Right.
Right? Just like engineering and math and everything else that makes someone a professional.
Yeah.
Like if as an engineer, if you can't just, give me a damn pencil and paper. Let me show you how to do this, right? And go through voltage equations and go through a current and like, here's how it goes. Okay, we all good? We all playing off the same sheet of music? All right, good. Let's go make things happen, right?
Right.
But if you can't do that, and you're depending on a software, or you're depending on a calculator or Wolfram Alpha or whatever, you don't know the math. Okay, bro, I'm sorry, you made it this far without learning the math.
Right.
That's tough, right?
Oh yeah.
When you get down the line and your brain is a little bit older, you didn't learn it the first time. You're kind of shit out of luck, right?
Right. You better be,
You better be very open to suggestion and help at that point, right?
Right. And like, going back sometimes, well, guess what? That kid really wants to sing that song, but guess what? If you don't have the capability to put it in that kid's key, then you say, let's try something else.
Right.
Or reach out. Don't have so much pride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have offered my help to many people. I say, I always tell them, you have something that your kids want to play, let me help you and put it in a key that's good for them. And let's do it to their ability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll make a quick arrangement. If you have an arrangement, send it to me and I'll transpose it.
Hell, I'll do it for free just so I don't have to hear
I'll
that.
Decompose it. I'll transpose it. Yeah. But yeah, because in the long run, you want the kids to sound good. You want the parents to be like, wow, that's
look at what I'm getting out of all my time. I think at the end of the day, and I thought about this as I was driving down here, I think at the end of the day, we want the current youth and the current generation to come away with the same experience and stories that we have.
Exactly.
It should not regress.
No.
It should be as good or better. And our good is pretty good. So there's a lot of responsibility for people today to provide that story for those students. Like, man, I had a great time when I was a kid in that thing. Not, man, I could never seem to sing that right. And they have a stunted growth about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you got to be good stewards.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're doing.
Yep.
And got to just be good.
And you got to pass it on, man. That's another thing that's another, something that gets me really bad about a lot of directors. And I shouldn't say a lot. There's a few. That it's enough.
It's enough when it happens. You're like, what is going on, right? It ruffles your feathers in a way. And
they have this like mentality that their students will never be as good as them. They're like, oh well, that one girl sings. Oh, she sings great, but she'll never sing like me.
Yeesh.
Right? And you're kind of like, wait a minute, like
it's the wrong attitude.
That's totally the wrong attitude. I hope each and every kid that steps out of this classroom goes way beyond me. I hope that they're better teachers than me. I hope that they are better players than me. That's what I want. That is the measure of my teaching ability. Like, how far can they go? What can they do? I want them to be, there's nothing that I will hold back. Like, oh, there's a couple of little secrets I'm not going to tell them because I still want to be,
Like, what are you, Michael Bublé? Come on, get real. Seriously.
Yeah. That's my magical ring. They can't touch my magical ring.
It's like, if you have magic tricks, bro, then you're not the genuine article.
Right.
That's why I train jiu-jitsu. All those black belts in there, they all want you to someday be able to choke them out.
Right.
It's going to take a long time before you can legitimately put them on the mat, though.
But
that's what they want.
But they want you to strive for it, just like they worked for it.
Yes.
You know, they understand that there's this ability, there's the amount of work that needs to be done. And and you're right. I won't shortchange kids. I will tell them, look, this is what you need to do, and this is the way you need to do it. There's no secrets out there. I want each and every one of them to be 1,000,000 times better than me. You know, and that's what I want to leave as a legacy.
Yeah, that's good. Johnny, before all my equipment fails for my my mobile studio, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course, man.
You know, I think there's even more to talk about. We could probably talk for 3 hours.
So we're going to do like part 2 and 3 and 4.
Part 2 and 3. You come up to Phoenix next time you're in Phoenix. We'll have some scotch in my office.
Oh, perfect.
We'll pull out some recordings. I have a thing like this. When Jose Roscoe told me that shit, I have a hard drive of like 30,000 mariachi songs that I stole from the U of A.
Nice, dude.
And I'm like, I took it to heart and listen to that stuff and walk through, like listening to Marmolejo and early Vargas recordings, and then listening to what's being put out right now by Cobre and by all these amazing groups. It's like, you see the range here? We're covering some spread here, right?
Oh,
It's a major spread. So again, I want to say thank you, Johnny.
You're
Hopefully we can talk again.
Yes,
It's been fun. It's been great. You're one of my early mentors and inspirations to play mariachi music and keep going.
Thank you, man.
It's awesome to be here.
Thank you. Hey, dude, you have to come back to TIMC, man.
I'm down. I've finally, you know me, I've always been a hard to sit still and immature kind of kid. I'm 32 now. I'm okay. I'm seasoned now. I'm okay. I can sit still for a little bit. I'm totally down. I'm totally down to give back. We're teaching kids in Phoenix now.
Dude, that's perfect.
And they're coming. And I'm like, all right, these little guys.
There's a need for it up there, bro.
Yeah, and we recognize that, and we have kids there, and they're so good. I'm like, damn, they're so much better than I was when I was that age. You know, they can play, they can transpose, they can do all this stuff, and I'm just like, holy.
It's because you're giving them the tools, man.
They have it, and so they're coming down, and so I'm pretty sure I'll be coming down with them.
Nice.
And so yeah, I'm totally down for.
Which group is that?
It's Corazón del Valle.
I've seen that name. Okay.
Mariachi Corazón del Valle. Yeah, they're great kids, and I'm looking at that, and I'm just like, it's like we used to, like back in the day, we used to call you sir. All of a sudden, I'm being called sir. I'm like, hey, what the hell? When did this start happening?
Sir, Mr.
Sir, hey, can we do this? I'm like, you can call me Jason, guys. It's cool. You know? How about Mr. Davenport? I'm just Mr. Davenport will work right now.
Mr. Davenport Esquire.
Mr. Davenport Sterling. That's what Cuckoo used to call me. Hey, Sterling. I'm just like, it's not my name, Cuckoo, but it's okay. Johnny, thank you so much
You're
again.
welcome, bro.
For viewers of the PlayMariachi podcast, Johnny Contreras here in Tucson at Pueblo High School. Some real shit going on.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you so much.